Okay, good evening. Thank you for coming tonight, December 12th, regular Board of Education meeting, Marysville Exempted Village School District. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order and take a roll call, please.
Mr. Ferguson?
Here.
Mr. Keller?
Here.
Ms. Savage?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Keck?
Here. And with that, join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I need a meeting to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
And a second.
Second?
Any discussion? We'll take a vote.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. Okay, and let's see here. Now we have some recognitions to go down through. Turn that over to you.
Sure. If the board would like to go in front of the stairs, we do have several recognitions this evening, and they're all stacked. All right. First on our list would be, I'll still call you Sheriff Jamie Patton. We wanted to recognize definitely Jamie for his partnership and friendship over 33 years of service to our community and to our schools. And what I can say is Jamie was the guy anytime I called, and the answer was, how can I help? So Jamie, congratulations on a great tenure here in our community. Our next recognition would be for Ryan Piper and the Union County Daily Digital Team. If you guys want to come up. OSBA provides the opportunity to recognize a media honor roll, and it's our pleasure to recognize the Union County Daily Digital and Ryan Piper for the Media Honor Roll Award, calling to attention the ongoing responsible and exemplary nature of the reporting on Marysville schools. We express our appreciation for your balanced and accurate approach to sharing with our community both the challenges facing our schools and the successes achieved by the staff and students. Congratulations. Next up, I think Jonathan will present two members of our leadership class.
Good evening. Tonight we celebrate a special accomplishment for Allie Bayless and Megan Laszlo, if you could come on up. Allie is a preschool teacher and Megan is a school psychologist for the district. I'm proud to say both are official graduates of Marysville Schools Leadership Academy. While Allie and Megan may represent a small but mighty graduating class, their impact has been anything but small. The richness of the conversations we've shared and the experiences we've had together this past year have been inspiring. Through your dedication and hard work, Allie and Megan, you have not only grown as leaders, but also enriched myself and others with your unique perspectives and contributions. The special projects you develop will leave a lasting impact as well. We are grateful for the incredible guest speakers who joined us throughout the year, sharing wisdom and experiences that sparked meaningful dialogue. These moments, coupled with the lessons learned and the rich conversations we shared, will resonate with us for years to come. This has truly been a remarkable year. Allie and Megan, thank you for your commitment, your courage to lead, and your ability to learn and grow together. As you move forward, take those lessons with you and continue to lead with purpose and passion. Congratulations, Leadership Academy Class of 2024.
Okay, last but not least, in our recognition section, it's my honor to recognize Dick Smith for his award to the All Ohio School Board. This is a very high standard of achievement, and there's no doubt when Mr. Smith puts his mind to something, he is all in, and I think that would kind of encompass the qualities that have allowed him to get this award. I'm just going to read a small section of a very lengthy letter we wrote to nominate him, but in closing, the standard for OSBA All Ohio School Board recognition is very high, as it should be. Honorees should be a motto of exceptionalism and a proven record of service. Dick Smith's service has clearly and continually demonstrated the standards established by OSBA to be considered for this meaningful recognition. Congratulations, Mr. Smith. Next, we have our Employee of the Month. So it's my honor to recognize Gordon Chip, as the rest of us refer to him. Counselor, please come forward. Currently, Gordon serves as the custodian here at Central Office and works on the maintenance team as well, and was at Northwood before that. And I get to read the comments that were made about Gordon in order to get this award. So I think this sums it up so well. He is extremely positive, does the right thing when no one is watching, and shows he cares for the schools. So thank you very much. Congratulations, Chip.
Okay, now we're up to public participation. Just this page? Yep. Okay. Jonathan.
Jonathan Langhouse, 212 Chestnut Street, 937-578-6104. I want to address the editorial published in the November 26th edition of the Journal Tribune, as there was misleading information. The manner in which the editorial was written made it seem like the writer talked to me about our superintendent, Diane Allen, as several people asked me that very question. Frankly, I have maybe talked with the editor-owner of the JT once or twice over my career, and I have never spoken to anyone at the JT about Diane. However, if I would talk to the JT about Diane, this is what I would say. From the very beginning, Diane is focused on creating opportunities, removing roadblocks, and ensuring that every student in our district has what they need to succeed. Our students can truly achieve remarkable things, and it's because of the unique programs and initiatives they have at their fingertips. Those programs and initiatives didn't just materialize by chance. They were born out of Diane's vision, leadership, and dedication to our district and our students. Here are just a few of the things we have in Marysville schools because of Diane's leadership. High school pathways, internship programs, OHP satellite programs, alternative kindergarten, all-day, everyday kindergarten, impact and drive stadiums, the STEM early college high school, a reduced number of students needing remedial courses in college, and administrators who feel empowered to do their job. The list could go on, but I'll run over my time limit. But here's the thing, you'll never hear her say that. She's not someone who seeks the spotlight or looks for a pat on the back. As a matter of fact, she actively avoids any kind of spotlight or accolades, almost to a fault. Instead, she lets others like teachers, principals, staff members, or students step forward and shine. And while we're shining, she is the one who keeps connecting the dots, building the teams, and charting the path to future goals. However, it's just not about successes. Leaders must also face failures and challenges. The reality of leadership is this: every problem, no matter its source, becomes your problem. The same holds true for a superintendent. Even when mistakes are made by others, the buck stops with her. She shoulders that burden because she knows that leadership isn't about assigning blame, it's about finding solutions. What I admire most is that she bears those challenges quietly and with grace, because her priority has never been herself. It has always been the kids. Therefore, I ask us to take a moment to acknowledge her quiet, steadfast leadership. Let's appreciate her courage to face the heat when things go wrong and her humility when things go right. In conclusion, I say to Diane Allen, thank you, and enjoy your well-deserved retirement in June. Knowing you as I do, I have a feeling you will still find ways to positively impact students locally and possibly beyond. I know I can get wordy, and when I do, you always tell me, less is more. Well, tonight, I felt more was the appropriate thing to do, because anything less just wouldn't be right.
Jen Lewis.
Thank you. Do I need to start over? Okay, thank you. 614-582-4061. Even understanding that an editorial at its core is based on someone's opinion, I still had trouble getting through the Tuesday, November 26th Marysville Journal-Tribune editorial, New Direction, Welcome to Staff and Community, without becoming enraged. Please don't misunderstand. My issue isn't with someone having an opinion, even one that differs from my own. It's with someone trying to masquerade their opinion as fact when they clearly haven't done their homework or research. As a 19-year staff member of the Marysville Schools, parent of a Marysville Schools graduate, longtime property, and more recent homeowner in the community, I'd like to state my facts. The announcement of Superintendent of Marysville Schools Diane Allen's retirement brought tears to my eyes and a lot of questions to my mind. The biggest one, can lightning strike twice in the same place for Marysville Schools? Diane Allen came to our district when we were in a desperate and unenviable position with our community. And even though the community turned us away at that time, she stuck it out and made difficult decisions necessary to try and set the district on the right path with the resources we had available. Time and time again, she has stepped up to make the tough calls that are required of her position. I personally can't imagine what COVID would have looked like for our district if we didn't have someone leading us who cared about our students, staff, and community enough to make the right-minded decisions that had to be made. I have actually been on the wrong side of Superintendent Allen's attention a time or two, and I have to say, I didn't feel that she was trying to control or intimidate me during these situations at all. It felt more like she was truly trying to understand and work together with me to figure out how to prevent that thing from happening in the future, which just seems like good leadership to me. Again, don't misunderstand. I was very aware in these situations that there were expectations, that I had not met those expectations, and that I shouldn't make a habit out of it. But the bottom line I took away is that I am an adult with a job. It is my responsibility to get that job done. If I need help in order to make that happen, then I need to ask for help until the job is done. And I have never once thought that Superintendent Allen made a decision to serve her own personal best interest. What I believe everyone in our community needs to understand is that no decision is taken lightly by those in charge of our school district, because they know they are going to have to defend their decisions over and over again to every unhappy person that reaches out. I'm not trying to say that I have agreed with every decision that's been made in this district, but I and many of the people I work with agree that we couldn't have had a better person at the helm guiding our district this last dozen or so years.
Michelle Elliott. You're not going? Okay. And I can't read the next one.
Brent Mills. Brent.
No, this one.
Oh. Sharon. Eric.
Irick? Sharon Irick? Is it? Sharon Emmerich, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay. My name's Sharon Emmerich, and I did graduate from MHS many, many years ago. I just want to address the levy situation. You've had two levies that passed, the two levies that didn't pass, rather. And I know there are some of you who feel you have sound reasons for putting the same levy on the ballot again. If this is the decision that you stay with, I think you must explain it much better than you have in the past and why you're doing it, with survey numbers, percentages, and explanations that everybody can understand, that this is the decision you came to. I myself do not understand why you would not make some kind of a change that would show the public that you have listened to them and that you hear what they are saying. I know your 300 votes seems like a small amount, but with no change at all, you might upset many and find yourself with more problems than you have now. I should have started with the fact that I voted for the levy. I'll always vote for the levy because I support the schools and the students. But you've got to somehow explain to the public why you're doing what you're doing. Thank you.
And we have Brett Mills from NBC4. Okay, not on there. Thank you. All right. Okay, we have a presentation from Dean of Students Scott Stackhouse and who else we got on here? Huh? Kathy McInnes, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Kathy.
You're live.
Scott and I'd like to talk to you tonight about No Place for Hate, a program that we introduced last summer to the superintendents, and I want to just review it for you. It's a student-led program, and it focuses on climate improvement. I think the two things that we really liked about it was it really is things that students lead. It's designed for schools, and it's a K-12 program, so schools and students can decide how they're going to run it. And it's a great way for students to improve their leadership skills and work on the way their school should be run. So there's 4 phases to it, and the first is to form a volunteer student committee. And then there is a pledge, and the pledge looks different in elementary than it does in like the 7-12 space. The pledge is things like, I will be nice to my friends. I will seek out an adult if I need help. I will stand up for people that are being bullied. And then the high school pledge looks a little bit more like, I'll seek to understand another point of view. I'll refrain from online bullying, those kind of things. So that's the second part. The third is to assess the school climate and then implement activities. And I'll talk to you about each of those. So the Student Volunteer Committee, the idea is that students will be the ones to lead this. And I was talking to a couple principals about how to form the committee, and I suggested that those kids that are always in your office telling you how you could do things better and how they could make the school better are the kids that you should start with. Find those activist students that would want to be part of this. And I think the thing about this program is because it's led by students, there's a better chance that there'll be buy-in widely throughout the school community. So then I talked about the pledge a little bit. They use this to sort of introduce the plan to other students, that this is what we're about. Do you want to be a part of this? The third thing is that they assess the school climate. And I think this is really powerful for each school, because I think as administrators and teachers, we think we know a lot of times about how kids are feeling. But when you get an opportunity to assess the whole climate, you might find out things about the school that you didn't know. And I think that will help it. Once the climate survey's been completed, it triggers a whole bunch of activities that you could choose from to do with your students. Again, in the upper grade levels, that space definitely would be run by students. In the lower grades, they would probably use it during their team times and their community days. One of the things that one of the biggest focuses is how to address bullying. And the nice thing about this program is that it gives tons of support for teachers or adults as well as students to say, well, what can we do about this? How do we look at this? And then the other thing is how their lesson plans. You want to show them the next one? That's okay. We didn't practice this, but and each grade level has tons of lesson plans that people can choose. I think sometimes adults or peers are not sure how to address things with kids in that social emotional space, and this is just a program that can really support them in whatever they need a little bit. I think the reason that we think that it will be so helpful is that it promotes just not only student leadership, but also this positive school climate, and encourages action against bullying, and it really does create a cohesive and strong school community. Do you have questions for us?
Hi, Kathy. Is there a schedule kind of attached to this activity?
There is not. We waited until second semester for the schools to implement it, and they were all going to decide how they do it. I think it depends, like in the 7-12 space, they all have like a monarch time or a nucleus time where kids come together, and that's probably where they will do it. In the elementaries, I think they were going to use it. They all have different structures that look a little different at each school about when they meet. For example, Mill Valley, they have teams that are organized across grade levels, and so they're going to use that time that way.
Okay. Thank you.
So it won't start till second semester
Yeah,
this year? Okay.
that's correct.
Yeah. It looks great. The time is how much time is it going to take?
I think it's up to each building to say how much time do they want to invest and how engaged kids are in doing it, I think, really. That's where I think it will happen. It shouldn't, again, I think the nice thing about each of the schools is they all have some structure that it'll slide in nicely to. It doesn't take away from any instruction time, and it wouldn't be anything that would be done during those spaces.
Good evening to you both. Thank you for being here. I have a few questions. Is this a product of discussions with students? Do students ask for this program, or?
So last spring, we did have some students that brought it to our attention and said maybe there are some ways to combat people saying mean things, that kind of thing. So that's how we initially looked into it.
Understood. Because I know we have a strategic direction plan, and we've had presentations with different types of programming that kind of do the same mission. So how does this differentiate from what we're currently doing in our buildings now?
I don't think it does. I think it more supports that. It would go more align with it and could be used, the pieces that make the most sense for each school.
Understood. And I was kind of along Bill's question, because I'm now very more cognizant of the demand on teachers in our buildings. I can see how this can be a student-led at the high school level, possibly the middle school level, but for the elementary buildings, what's the demand on top of everything that they're dealing with now with increased class sizes and everything?
Which is true. I think, I know that we've talked at Creekview about using high school students as peer mentors, and some of the elementaries have considered that as well, that we have groups at both high schools that are just champing at the bit to say they would be happy to go in and lead some of these activities with kids.
Perfect. That's good to hear. The curriculum, is this curriculum provided by ADL, or is it free of charge, or do we purchase? Perfect. Thank you.
One last question. Would this be a good partnership with that High Five React?
That's the exact group that was going to work with the younger kids as well.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, I know that we've gotten at least one email that concerned climate in school and acceptance and so forth. And I know that we've implemented a number of things. In my experience in the classroom, I know that whenever you empower students, they can do some remarkable things. Now, my experience was mostly in the high school area, but I think as I listen to this presentation, I see this as being very consistent with granting authority to each of the buildings to figure out how to take a concept and make it fit the students in an appropriate way, and also the issues and the interests within the building. I also like that students at every grade level will be addressing problems that students have. Because I think, again, my experience, sometimes the adults think they have the answer, and that can lead you in the wrong direction. So I applaud this. I got my other questions answered before it got to me, but I think this is another good step forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have a presentation, Mr. Wade Lucas, on how to find a superintendent, I hope.
Yes. Good evening. First of all, thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you. I want to talk a little bit about our search process. My name is Wade Lucas. I've been around a long time. I know it doesn't look that way, but I've spent 38 years in the education business, and I want to kind of walk you through our process of executive searches. And before I get there, though, I want to tell you a little bit about the ESC itself, because most boards that I talk to, they know and understand that they are a member of an ESC, and there are approximately 52 ESC, stands for Educational Service Centers, in the state of Ohio. And the Central Ohio ESC is the largest one. We have 30 in our footprint, about to add 2 more. So we will have 32 school districts in our footprint. And what the ESC does is provides school districts with professional development, technology, human resource, and administrative support. We go in our footprint from approximately districts of 1,000 in rural areas, all the way to the largest school district in the state of Ohio, Columbus City, and the 4th largest, Olentangy, and the 6th largest, Southwestern. So, and everything in between. So, we serve a very, very diverse group, and not only from a cultural standpoint, but also from a rural to suburban to urban. So that kind of gives you an idea of the things that we do. We provide special education services, direct services, financial services, and professional development for our superintendents. My experience itself, like I say, I've been here 38 years. I was a superintendent from 2000 to 2015. I started out in Coshocton City, and that's really where I spent 20 years. I was a teacher, I was a football coach, I was the athletic director, move up the chain, assistant principal, all the way up to superintendent. From there, I went to Green Local up in Summit County. Sits between Akron and Canton. We used to call it UCLA, Upper Canton, Lower Akron. That's Green Local. And my last stop as a superintendent was Olentangy. So when I started at Coshocton, we had 1,800 students. Moved to Green, had 4,500 students. Started at Olentangy, we had 13,000 students. When I retired from Olentangy, we had 20,000 students. So I've been just about every size school district that you can think of, and I've seen all the challenges that come with that. I also, after I left the superintendency, I ran your IT site, Meta. I wasn't very good. I was telling Scott this before the meeting. How's retirement? I said, I'm not very good at it because I can't stay away. I told Meta when I took over I would do that for 1 year. I stayed 4. When I stopped there, then went to the ESC. I actually lasted 7 months after my last retirement, and then went to the ESC, which is what I do now. I am a client service rep. I work with superintendents. I've also served in the interim positions at Superintendent of Dublin, Hilliard, Whitehall. And the majority of our time anymore, believe it or not, is conducting searches. Some of the searches that we've done recently, just finished up Marion City. I did the Olentangy Superintendent search, did the Olentangy Treasurer search, also did the Columbus City Treasurer search, Reynoldsburg City, and Whitehall. Those are some of the recent ones that we've done, but that gives you a little bit of an idea of what an ESC does, and from a personal standpoint, what I do. I'm going to walk you through this fairly quickly, this process, and then circle back and hit each step of the process. But as you can see here, the process of a superintendent search starts out with a needs assessment. Step 2 is the candidate recruitment phase. Step 3 is the due diligence stage. Step 4 is the final selection. And then step 5 would be the success and continuing support. So we'll go through each one of those steps. And by the way, at any time, if you want to stop me, feel free to ask questions, or you can stay, wait until the end with your questions. So step 1 would be the needs assessment stage of the search. Upon request, we would identify ideal attributes of a candidate based on board and community input. So we try to build what's known as a candidate profile. In other words, we talk to a lot of people in the community, on the school board, in the school system about what are you looking for in your next superintendent. Some of the things that we will do during that needs assessment part of the superintendent search would include a community survey. We will pretty well send out a digital survey to not only parents, but just about everyone in the community. We'll also have a staff survey. We also take the time to do some one-on-one meetings with each board member, the superintendent, the treasurer, the association presidents. We try to have one-on-ones, and we also conduct focus groups. And individuals in those focus groups will include parents, staff members, but from all different levels, elementary, middle, high school, classified employees, the administration, business leaders, and one that we do that's probably my favorite focus group to conduct, and that would be focus groups with your students. Because again, I've heard this already this evening, sometimes we forget what they say, and sometimes we forget why we're here, and that's one of the most important reasons that we are here. And it is always one of the best times for me and the most refreshing time for me. And it makes me feel really good about the future when I start sitting down with juniors and seniors and start talking about things like, what are you looking for in your next leader? So that would be step one of the needs assessment. Step two would be the process overview, and that's where we kind of create an awareness around the vacancy. We start reaching out after we've kind of put together a profile of what the community and the board and the staff and the students are looking for. We build this profile and we put out what's called a vacancy announcement. So we try to work with the board and really talk a lot about how far outreaching do you want this? Now, obviously, you want the best candidate possible. And I've stood before boards that say we want a national search. And I've also stood before boards that say we want to talk to two people and everything in between. And what I usually tell those individuals about a national search is usually the national searches that I've been part of usually ends up with somebody out of Central Ohio. Because again, there's a lot of people in Central Ohio and or has ties to Central Ohio. But we do put the announcement out to all ESCs, all 52. We put it out to BASA, that's the Superintendent Association in the state of Ohio. We also go AASA, which is the national group. Now, I don't know if you are aware of this or not, but Paul Emhoff, who is very close to here, was once upon a time the president of AASA, which allows us to expand that whole recruitment piece even further. We try to get it out to all Ohio school districts, and we also work with what I call the Gorman Group. That's a guy by the name of Pete Gorman. He works with us at the ESC, and he has connections in about 27 different states. We put it out to Pete, and he kind of looks around and advertises that for us. So again, we can keep it as local as you want, or we can go as far across the U.S. as you want, and that's usually up to the board. Step three would be due diligence. Now, obviously, this is the time where we identify and understand each applicant's background, experience, reliability, and as it says, this includes thorough reference checks. As we all know, we ask any candidate to give us their references, and they usually give us the three references, but I think one of the advantages that we have at the ESC is the fact that I'm not the oldest guy there, right? We have 6 individuals that work in this whole due diligence piece with a total experience of about 200 plus years. So usually what we do is when candidates are getting real close to being considered, we start making phone calls to individuals that we all know that may not be on that reference list. So we think that gives us a better advantage And it's always good to, I don't know if you know David Varder or not. Most people do. He works at the ESC. I work with him at Meta also. I'm not sure there's anyone in the state of Ohio that he doesn't know, and possibly as far into, the other states that border Ohio. But he is always a very valuable individual in regard to reference checks, because it's critical. That's the critical piece of this whole process. When we bring you someone, we don't want anything to be in that background that may make you look bad or may make us look bad. So the reference check is a vital part of this whole process. Step 4 then would be the final selection, and that's kind of where we develop a selection tool to prioritize the pool of finalists relative to needs. We provide you with the interview questions, both whether you only want to go one round, whether you want to go 2 rounds. First round of an interview process would usually be with a board only. Second round, sometimes you may want to bring a community group in. To give you an example, the last one I did in the summer at Marion, we actually had 3 groups. We had the board as one group in the final round. We had a group of administrators in the second group, and then we had a community group. So usually what we will do is we'll have a facilitator for each one of those groups and rotate those individuals through. And then once you have made your choice, we kind of either do one of 2 things. We step away and allow the board to kind of start that negotiation process, or we do that part also. And that's totally up to you. Last but not least, step 5 would be the success and continuing support. I think this is a step that obviously we put in this whole process piece, but it really doesn't matter who does the search. This 5th step is what we do. We provide success and continuing support for any and all candidates, because at the end of the day, we consider our 32 now school districts family, and it's part of the Central Ohio family, and we do all kinds of support. We bring the superintendents in to our facility on a monthly basis, but individuals like myself that serve as client reps, we also come out to the districts and always checking in. We're always a phone call away. And of course, step 5, whether we do the search, whether we don't do the search, is always part of our process. So just as a review, phase 1's the announcement, the application, and the profile development. Phase 2, the selection pool and interviews. Phase 3, reference checking, contract negotiations. Phase 4, board action to employ. And phase 5, transitioning and implementation. And again, I put that as a phase 6 of the ESC support, but that's always going to be there. So that's a very, very fast track through our process. Usually it can be anywhere from an expedited search of roughly 3 weeks to a full traditional search of usually 3 to 4 months, and anything in between. So now I will open the floor for any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, first of all. And I guess what would your timeline be on starting with the surveys?
Usually after we get the go-ahead from the board, in this case, since we're so close to the holidays, it would probably be right after the holiday. Those are digital surveys, by the way. And one thing I can tell you is districts that start this process in January, February have a leg up on a lot of other districts. I started the Marion search, for example, in June. We started the Columbus search a little bit later, like March, but the traditional time to start the search is just about January, February.
I had a couple of questions. And you've kind of answered one. So if we were interested in a traditional search starting in January, that would be April,
Yes.
early May that it would conclude. Okay.
Yes.
The profile, once the profile is developed, you've done your surveys and that, is that profile shared with candidates so that they can do a self-assessment and see whether they think they're a fit or not?
We do mention the profile in the announcement, but our AppleTrack system, when they fill out their application, also asks questions that are kind of geared toward that profile. Mm-hmm. So as they answer those questions on the AppleTrack system, it gives us a better idea. Now, saying that sounds great, but I would caution anyone that it's just not a given science that, oh, this person scored very high on the AppleTrack system. This has to be our choice. If that were the case, we'd never have to go through the interview process. What that does is allows you as a board to kind of funnel through the whole application pool. Now, I will tell you a little bit about, from a pool standpoint, once upon a time, and this was pre-pandemic, if a job like this came open, there would probably be 40 to 50 applicants. Post-pandemic, and I've seen this across the board, doesn't matter where it's at, usually it's now in the 15 to 20 range. Some I have conducted with 8. The lowest one I've had was 4. So what does that say? I think it says a lot more toward the challenges of the job. Do the individuals coming up through really have the want and desire to be the superintendent? Because as we all know, and believe me, Diane and I have been in the same wars, it's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah, and really my last question, in the final selection, you said that you can have one group, which might be the board, 2 groups, the board and the community, and
Yes.
or a 3rd group, the administrators. Is there an advantage to the administrators being a part of that process? I guess in the community, I think is probably an expectation that people within the community. So maybe could you speak to the composition of those 2 groups?
Yes.
Maybe?
Yes. In fact, it is not as common to have the administrative group. It's usually 2 groups because usually you get down to the final 2. So you have the ability to just flip the candidates as you go through. In Marion's case, for example, they had 3 they really liked. So their idea was, well, instead of taking the entire night, let's just have another group. I will say this, though. They were extremely happy and thought it was beneficial with that 3rd group of having more input. And when I think about the administrative group, it wasn't only administrators. It was like union presidents, maybe a lead teacher. So we brought in, I believe we were around 20 in that administrative group, and it brings a totally different perspective to the board, because at the end of the day, you're going to make the decision. And the more information you have in regard to making that decision, the better decision that you can make. So we got rave reviews from all board members about the input from the administrative group. But it is not that common to have that. And by the way, these searches are customized, obviously. If you told me there's an individual in Marysville that needs to have his or her own group, and you really, you were adamant about that, I'd say, okay, They can have his or her own group then. I mean, so you kind of set the tone for that, and because we want you to feel good about the process.
I think I know the answer to this. Well, I know I know the answer, but I'm not sure you said it.
Okay.
Cost to the district.
Our cost is zero. Now, I will say this, because when you are a member of the ESC, so that is a cost in itself, and that's what we do is we provide support, but we don't charge our member schools to do a search. When we do a search outside of the member district, we do have a cost. And, the average cost on a search anymore is anywhere from, $15,000 to $25,000. I do know a district that paid a lot more than that, and I'm not going to get into that, but various costs for these searches. But ours is, I won't say free, because believe me, when you say free, people say, you guys must not do much then, since we do it for free. And that's kind of what we do. That's our job, because at the end of the day, whoever becomes the superintendent in Marysville is one of us. So we want to make sure that we're very close to that individual, and not only in that support, but also to help the board find the right person for Marysville.
Thank you for your time tonight. This is actually our first conversation since Diane's resignation was announced. So we are kind of all catching up together.
Yes.
And we don't necessarily know all the options that are before us. We have your proposal.
Yeah.
A couple of questions I have. I know we talked about the needs assessment of the candidate, but we also have the environment in our community, and we have an upcoming levy. We have a lot of facilities planning. In your wisdom, from your experience and expertise, should we move forward with the hiring process now, or have an interim superintendent that's someone local until we try to solve some of these issues that we have right now?
Well, that's a great question, by the way. And when I told you I was the interim at Dublin and Hilliard and Whitehall, one of those was because of the same type of situation. So I'm going to say to you, that's more of a local decision as far as whether you should go with an interim or here's from my standpoint, this is an ideal timing-wise, to do a search, because when you start in January, you get the individuals that are starting to look, whether those might be a young candidate that wants to move up, whether that might be an individual that has been a superintendent for a while, wants to get to Central Ohio, whatever that may be. They start looking and thinking about those things in January, February for the following year. So I think you would have an advantage starting now as far as, I'm going to be very careful here when I say this, finding the best, because again, I've done superintendent searches starting in June, and I've gotten some really good superintendents. So I don't want you to think that, well, if you wait till June, it's hard to tell who you'll get, right? So you've in regard to that's the advantage of starting now. The advantage of putting an interim in place would be, and especially if it's someone that whether either is within the district or, again, that's what we do. We provide interim superintendents. That would give you more time to really think about what you want to do. So to me, there is no real right way. It's really more for the local. We can provide you with an interim. We can also, you may have somebody here that already you think may be an interim. That's perfectly fine. Any way we go, any route we go, we work with your superintendent. Whether it's an interim, whether it's a full-time, it doesn't matter. I don't know if I answered your question or not, but that's...
I was looking for from your experience and expertise, which was the most optimal. I understand those options are localized to the decisions of the board, but I kind of hear what you're saying. Can you share some success stories? The searches that you've conducted for treasurers and superintendents, how long do they stay at those districts when those hires are? I know not everything is perfect in this world, but are districts happy 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road with those hires?
We hope they are, number one, but that's usually, the proof is in the pudding. How long are they staying, which I think is a very good measurement. I'll give you the example from Marion. Marion had used other outside firms. They had been through 8 superintendents in 20 years. And you do the math on that alone, you're running into some big dollars. So they asked us to come in because they joined our ESC 2 years ago. When I first went in, I was told by a lot of Marion people, no one will apply for this superintendency. And we actually had 22 applicants, and we placed a guy in there that one of their desires was to bring in an individual that had Marion County roots, because they're like, we can't keep going through this 8 and 20 years. We can't. He's just rolling things over. And we found a Marion graduate that was kind of working up in Toledo City, and they were extremely happy right now. All that being said, we did the Whitehall search, which was 4 years ago. She's still there. We did the Reynoldsburg search. I did the Olentangy searches. Now, I have to say, I was superintendent of Olentangy, so we somewhat had a transition plan in place, so I'm not going to sit there and say, well, the guy that took my place, I stayed 7 years, he stayed 8 years. The guy that's in there now was my principal, so, that's just the way they do things. So Columbus, we put a guy in there just this summer. They seem to be happy, but again, we shall see. But for the most part, and I've been with the ESC since the beginning of the pandemic, so what's that, 4 years? Most of the individuals that we put in or help search with are still there.
Well, that's good to hear.
Knock on wood.
With the community groups that help do, how are those individuals, do they apply through you? How are those individuals selected?
Through the board.
Through the board, okay.
Usually when we go into a search, we will look for a point person, usually a communications director or someone that does a lot with the community, from the communication standpoint, and that's who we start sending information to. But when we start talking about community groups and being part of interviews, we'll talk to the board because they're really your eyes and ears, and they provide you with information. You tell us who you want to be there, and then we'll reach out and invite them in.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay.
How soon do you need to know an answer from us?
Anytime. I mean,
Okay.
We're right now, we're not in a search. I say that because, once upon these things kind of go in strings. You can go for 2, 3, 4 months, and all of a sudden you'll get 1, 2, 3. So we're moving into January, so I am anticipating, just a little side note, we've averaged in ESC between 6 and 7 new superintendents every year. So there's a churn. So it's happening. And so that's kind of where we are. Obviously, the sooner the better, but I'm not sitting here saying, well, you got to tell me tonight or it's done, I'm walking away. No, you have all the time in the world.
I guess I'll ask that question to you. How long do we, what's the process? Sorry, Mr.
That's all right.
But what's our process and what's our decision-making process from that
I
standpoint?
would think a motion and go ahead, but that's
Okay.
up to you guys.
I just want to thank you for your time. First of all, really appreciate your insights and expertise to help lead us. I had a question about the timeline. Like, will it be specific for each phase? Mr. Smith mentioned April, May. Hopefully we hope to find someone. But I looked today and there were a half dozen superintendent positions posted for the Central Ohio area. And so that January 1st, when more postings will be out there, I don't want to say makes me worry, but it makes me worry a little bit as a board member to find the best of the best.
Well, usually when we get word that we are doing the search, I will meet with the board and I will have a specific timeline that takes us through every step. And for example, that first step is usually the longest step when we talk about surveys and focus groups and getting input. That's usually about a 3 or 4 week step before we really even announce this thing. Because we want to get your input, we want to get the students' input, staff input, the parents' input, as far as what that candidate profile is going to look like before we turn that announcement loose. So usually, if you have this thing out in early March even, but if we got started like in January, we would have it out in February. And then we'd be on our way. It's basically you put it out, you usually let the vacancy out there probably anywhere from 3 weeks to a month. And by the way, if you say that let's put it out there for 6 weeks, that's fine. I'm helping you with the search, but it's more of a customized, I do what you want. You can ask me all the questions you want. I'll be glad to answer them. But at the end of the day, boards do basically 3 things. They hire superintendents, they hire treasurers, and they set policy. And you don't want to miss out on any of those 3. So it's vitally important that we are doing what you want, because at the end of the day, you're going to be held accountable, which is good. I think it's a great process.
Yeah. To answer your question, Jermaine, my thoughts would be post it. Let's gather the information and data and see what kind of candidates we have. If we feel someone's not the right fit, I would say then we start to think and talk about, an interim. Then we have that data collection, survey information to fall back on, to do a new search if and when we're ready for it. But everything I've ever been a part of with the ESC as a former educator has been quality. So I'd like to motion that we move forward with the ESC for our superintendent search.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been properly moved and seconded. We move forward with the ESC. Any discussion that we haven't already had?
Yeah, I'd like to say I appreciate you coming and explaining this. An interim would add additional cost, or could, I'll put it that way. Our superintendent is not retiring until the end of May, and I think, I know if we were to go to other outside search firms, there are costs that we would pick up there in addition to the costs that we've already committed to in terms of being a member of the SEC. Or the ESC. I didn't mean to make you an athletic conference.
We want to be the Big
apologize.
Ten, by the way, instead of.
I apologize for that. But I think with the background and expertise, again, I know that the ESC has done great work in talking with board members from other school districts. And I feel very comfortable in taking this step. So.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's take a vote.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Katz?
Yes. Looks like you're on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I will definitely, after the holidays, I'll be in touch at I'll be at your next meeting.
Okay.
And we'll be talking about timelines and surveys and profiles.
Good deal. Thank you very much.
I look forward to it. I appreciate your support, and we will be talking soon.
All right, now we're on to the superintendent's report. No? What'd I miss?
Transportation.
Transportation, that's right. I was looking forward to that.
First of all, good luck. You got big shoes to fill. So, Todd Amos, Director of Transportation, put together this little slide presentation to had a unforeseen circumstances at the beginning of this year and wanted to try to put a timeline together to try to make things smooth. So starting out, March 14th, we're going to start our mock routing. That's going to be spring break. Then in March, I'll do a staffing review with my current staff to see if they're returning or retiring or what have you. April, there'll be a recruiting event. It's going to be a multi-department recruiting event, kind of like a job fair, if you will. Then in late May, mid-April, we're going to do a opt-in, required opt-in, meaning if you want transportation, you got to tell us. So that way I don't have to route 6,000 kids. I only have to route the kids that actually are going to be on the bus. In June, they have the Power School rollover. We'll continue doing the routing, continue updating, balancing out the routes. Mid-July, there'll be, the routes will be released to parents, everybody, the bus drivers. Then in August, we're going to have the open house and first-time rider events. We haven't done the first-time rider event for a while. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's important to Diane. So I think that's a good thing to bring back. And then in August and September, we'll be just making minimal changes to routes to try to smooth the ride for the student to not be overcrowded, not be, extremely long. What that enables us to do this year that we didn't do last year is the fidelity checks, where we can have like our TransFinder vendor, our IT folks, us, we can all sit down at a meeting, probably several meetings, and check these out along the way to make sure everybody's seeing what they're supposed to be seeing. Alternate routes are not required by law. They are cumbersome for our drivers. So I think we're going to try to put together a committee that will review them the first full week in September. And some of the criteria is going to be already established stop on a route, where space is available on the bus, or must be every day of a 5-day work week consistent. Some of those today are not. It's like Tuesday, Friday, every other Thursday. It gets very complex, and the drivers don't know which kid is supposed to go where. They just show up on the bus, and if they get to the house and the parent or the kid's like, hey, this is not where I'm going, then that bus has to reroute and go sometimes across town, sometimes out to the country to get this kid home. So that's one reason we're not going to do the alternate addresses right up front. We're going to wait and weigh out who needs them. Stop Finder is going to be the main source of transportation information. Last year we had Stop Finder, we had Power School. They didn't match. So if they didn't match, parents didn't know what to do. So we're going to say Stop Finder is going to be the way to go. And if you don't have it, we can get it to them. It's pretty easy to use. It's an app on your phone. Now, as far as Ohio High Point, the district only requires us to provide transportation to and from High Point. So right now, they are picked up by a bus, taken to a high school, to the Rock. Everybody gets on, whether they drive or they came from a bus, gets on that bus, drives up to High Point. Then they come back and there's a midday, but they come back at the evening, and some of the kids go home. They're in their car, and then some of the kids have to be driven back home. So I think next year we're going to try to do Rock to High Point to Rock. No extra transportation. We need to clean up the eligibility zone for the ridership and communicate to all those families who are currently in the non-eligibility zone, but don't know that they're not in the eligibility zone. So I think it's 1.5 miles for high school and 1 mile for K through 4. We're going to do I already talked about the opt-in, but April 28th through May 16th is going to be the required opt-in. May 16th is the deadline. If they don't respond to that survey, we're going to have 10 business days to route if it occurs in the months of August and September, because those are the busiest times that we have. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Hi. I just wanted to, we had the opportunity to do building visits, and we went to the transportation office, and we had a 2-hour conversation with our transportation department, bus drivers. I want to thank them for all the work they do.
Yeah.
They are truly a dedicated group of people, and they are dedicated to getting our kids to school and home safely. So thank you for everything the transportation department does.
And thanks for putting up with us. There was one question, and I just don't understand it, but, you know, we've got GPS on the buses, and I assume parents can track that in the ideal situation.
Yep.
But what happens in the less than ideal situation where the bus is parked because of a mechanical problem alongside the road and the kids are on another bus? What do you have to go through to deal with that?
So if I need to update a bus to a sub bus, I have to go through every single route and change every single bus number from, say, bus 21 was the route, and they're now in bus 30. I have to go into every single route and change all those buses to 30. And then when the bus is back from the oil change or whatever was going on, I have to go back and change all those back to the 21, so parents can see it via
And how long does that take?
probably 15 or 20 minutes each bus.
Wow. Go ahead.
I have a good transition question from that. So, you know, that's one of the concerns that happened last year. Is there a QR code, or is there technology where a student can scan onto a bus and scan off? That way, not only do you know where the bus is at, but you just saved yourself 30 minutes of time by transitioning the bus number for that student profile. If a student can scan themselves, if they have a QR code on their student ID, or somehow they can scan onto a bus, and when they leave the bus, they scan off. Is there a technology there for that?
Yeah, there are
Okay.
several, like RFID tags, there are several air tags, anything such as that, but they're very costly. Very costly. To the tune of probably $100,000.
Okay. Okay. I think there's other options, but I understand what you're saying. Because that could help make sure we know where each student's at what time, because I know there were instances where kids were left, didn't get off the right stop. And so that's something I just wanted to know, I guess, how could we do that? I know we have a permanent improvement fund where we could, if there's a good technology that's reasonable cost, we could probably make that investment to help that quality control there. I do want to thank you for this presentation tonight and coming. I know you've had a lot on your plate this last few months, and I do thank you for putting in some of these quality control measures and working to improve transportation for our students. With the timeline, I do have a question about enrollments, and like we have preschool and kindergarten and then new enrollments. What is the deadline for those individuals, those families who are new to the district or are entering the district to sign up for transportation by?
So if they're doing new enrollment, they automatically will get that form that is an opt-in form if they want transportation, and that will come to us.
So let's just use the kindergarten and preschool. When is that by August 10th, or what's that date?
So I work with our enrollment department, so that's just a fluid, constant process that
Okay.
takes place. It
10
never
days after-
stops.
okay.
It's just continual 365. So families that enroll and new to Marysville schools, they'll just flow through that process. As a part of that process will be that required opt-in. If they want to, that will be one of the e-collect forms that they have to complete.
And that's
then
through
that
Power
gets
School?
sent- Yep, and that
Okay.
gets sent right over the transportation.
And
So kindergarten families who go through K registration, they would expect to have that same July 25 release for their route as well.
Absolutely.
perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. There was I don't know, maybe I think I would like to schedule a meeting. I didn't get to go to the last building visits, but I do have some questions that are pending, because I think when we look at quality control measures, we have to look at what are the root causes of what happened before and make sure those are clearly identified. Off the top of my head from residents, it wasn't just the first original data transfer. There was issues that prolonged into September and October. It seems like some of these would help clean them up with the data fidelity checks. But then I'm hearing a lot from like transportation issues with athletic and extracurricular events where there's not transportation coverage. Is that still going on, or is that cleared up?
No, that's cleared up. We have filled all the trips through the end of the year.
Perfect, yeah.
So we don't have any issues. The only issues we have is if there's something that happens out of our control. But yeah, we're
Perfect.
not having those issues. We had them earlier. We're getting more drivers. We have one getting ready to test Thursday, and a few more coming on, 3 more coming on. So we're getting there.
That's great to hear.
And a big compliment to our OBIs. They've just been working tremendously, getting some new team members trained. So they've been doing a great job.
What about our maintenance? How are we with our maintenance? I know we had a lot of maintenance techs, or the one maintenance tech. We have 2 now. Perfect. Good news again. Maintenance techs still driving routes, or are they back in the shop?
They drive routes occasionally when we're short-staffed, but for the most part, they're in the garage doing the maintenance on the buses.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's all. Thank you for the presentation tonight and coming here. And I know there's a lot of noise, in the fall, but I haven't heard anything lately, and so that's good news. And I want to thank you for the hard work that your team has put in.
Yeah.
So.
And just to circle back to your RFID tags, I mean, that's something we can look into if you would want us to.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. You're up.
All right. Enrollment report, we're not currently at 5,641 students in the district. I would also update the board on contingency plans. So Lynette and I have been working with union leadership and meeting with all employees that are potentially impacted by the contingency plans. Over the last couple of weeks, we have 2 more meetings next week. We'll finish up those conversations. So that includes potential RIF situations as well as bumping situations. So I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Lynette. I could give you an example. We have a high school math position that's impacted all the way down to an elementary position. So lots of pieces and parts there, and she's done an amazing job with that, and not a great situation for sure. Parent council is next week, December 18th at 5. Also, we've been working on our facility plan. So we had the community survey go out. We've received over 1,200 responses, which we felt really great about. We have taken that information and created, in essence, probably 10 potential mock-ups of different ideas based on that feedback from the community. All of you have meetings next week. You should have received a meeting invite from Michelle with your time, and you will get an update at that time, kind of a process feedback, et cetera. So really excited. The next meeting with a community group is right after break with our task force. Also, I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on head coaching position. So first, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Coach Johnson. Certainly given us a lot to cheer about over the past several years, but grateful for his time and excited for what future brings for him. We are currently working on the search. So currently the deadline to apply is the end of this month on the 29th. We have a multiple tier process, including parents, students, and staff, with the goal of bringing a final candidate forward in February. And that's all I have.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
I don't have anything to report tonight.
Oh, darn. I have a few things here. We held two special meetings, December 3rd and the 9th, focused on the potential May ballot issues. There was a lot of discussion and many hours. Great points were brought out, were made throughout the discussions. We've continued to have discussions for the last 2 days on the phone, and I just want people to understand that there is no one decision that makes everybody happy. We had 3 potential possibilities, and you know, as I was freezing to death the other day, walking across the field, I thought the division in our board very much reflects the division in our community. And, you know, there's just no right decision. And depending on what you think is right, you know, stirs a tremendous amount of emotion that way. Anyway, I'm hoping, we've made a decision, and I'm hoping that people will continue to support the school system as they have in the past, and that we don't lose anybody. We need to pick up a few more, and I hope we can do that. On December 4th, we had a small group meeting between the city and the schools. We discussed the importance of continuing our work together and addressing challenges that are impacting both entities. I know it appears that we're not getting along and that we are working against each other from time to time. I can tell you that I would say from that meeting, that's not really the truth. The city has really come to bat for us, especially I would say in the last two meetings. I can't tell you the specifics of that yet, but stay tuned. I think you'll be very happy with some things coming out of those meetings. I hope you will, anyway. Board visits, I just speak on my behalf of that and then turn it over to the board. They're fantastic. It really makes it worthwhile doing what we do, and really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the fact that everybody's still pretty positive, even though it seems like we took a pretty good gut punch. I think the administrators and the teachers are really keeping the positive on at this point in time. So anybody like to share their experience?
Well, I visited 2 buildings, Nave and the Early College High School, and my goal in visiting both of those buildings was to get to know our new principals. And so I spent a lot of time and was very impressed with both of them. Conversations we had were, you know, wonderful conversations, and I look forward to them both staying in our district for a long period of time, and I think that our teachers in those buildings are going to be well served by excellent leadership. So.
Okay. And then the last thing I have is to remind everyone we have an organizational meeting Monday, January 6th. And Mrs. Savage is working on our board assignments. So you might want to check in with her and make sure that you're not on parking lot duty or something. I don't know. So check in with her, and that's all I have. All right. And student achievement. report. Do we have one of those?
Yeah, just a few points from the principal notes. Early College High School has 67% of our seniors participate in internship. And then this may be outdated now, but it seemed like a lot of our elementary principals were mentioning the Ohio State test for reading in the fall and wanting to look at that data. So I'm sure we'll get to see that soon too when it's available.
I did send in the update to all of you last, on the weekend, the breakdown on the departmental update of that for you, just last Saturday.
Perfect, I missed that, thank you.
And do we have a legislative update, Jermaine?
Tomorrow I'll send out an email.
Okay.
There's a lot of moving parts this week, and I'm not prepared to give us a report tonight.
No problem. Safety and drug, anything there at all?
No, not this time. Thank you.
Okay. And at this point in time, I need a recommendation to approve the draft minutes from the last meeting.
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on the draft minutes of the last meeting? All in favor?
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Cap?
Yes. And all right. Let's see here. Board of Education items. Public Library. Motion to approve the reappointment of Abigail Anderson to the Marysville Public Library Board of Trustees for a 7-year term. Need a motion to do that.
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
So we made some improvements in our process. So once the library board found their nominee, they forwarded us the resume of the person involved. So we had at least some information on the person coming into the position before we would be voting for approval. So.
Any other discussion?
No, I'm just going to say Abigail is a very involved community member, and I know she served on the library board. That's who I got my library levy sign from. So she does put in the work, and I'm supportive of this nomination. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Mr. Cap?
Yes. And now we move to a memorandum. I need a motion to approve a memorandum of understanding for retirement buyout. And we'll discuss that in discussion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And is there any discussion, Diane?
Do you want me to highlight that a little bit? So
Yeah.
as pre the MOU, our current standing is any eligible staff member who retires the year they are eligible for retirement, they receive a $15,000 bonus. That's in our current contract language. If they retire the second year they're eligible, they get half of that. In looking at our staffing and our current situation, we worked with union leadership to come up with a plan that might incentivize people who have stayed beyond that time. So maybe this is year 36 or something, as well as looking at individuals who could take a reduced benefit as a way to incentivize their options if they're considering retiring. So that would be a bump to $20,000 for people in all those categories, if approved.
And that would help save some teachers
Yes, so, and in fact, so you could have maybe, I'll give an example, like if a math teacher were to retire on that reduction list, we'd be able to save one more. So you're still actually reducing a position, it's just a higher level position, a person who's been here higher on the pay scale.
Yeah.
Yes, and giving them an incentive.
So basically, we spend more and save more.
Yes, there would
Okay.
be an impact definitely this year, but the next year, when you look at staffing costs, there would be a reduction.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I just want to thank the district administration and the union representatives for coming to this agreement.
All in favor?
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. And let's see here. Oh, let's see here. Yes. Oh, this is why I don't like computers. There we go. Resolution declaring it necessary to put a levy on the ballot, 5.5 mil tax, and requesting the county auditors certify the matters in connection with the proposed tax levy. Is there anybody would like to make that motion, please?
So moved?
And a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion that we haven't already had?
One thing I would note, I just apologize that it's hit so late, and the reason being, with this levy not happening until 2025, we had to have values that were updated for the 24 values, and we just got that number literally a few hours before the meeting, so that's the reason it is put on there a little late.
I know we've had a number of meetings. We've gotten input from individuals through text messages and phone calls and face-to-face discussions. And I would say we've made every effort to try to listen as best we can to the public. I think in making a decision, each individual household, each individual taxpayer is going to find themselves in a different situation. And as board members, speaking for me, I know that I need to feel that whatever issue we put before the voters is going to be the right thing for the school district, that we listen to and we consider the opinions and positions of those in the community. But at the end of the day, we need to make a decision that's going to be right for the school district, because that's what we've been elected to do, is to operate the schools, make sure that there's adequate funding, and that we're able to do the things that we need to do for kids. And there are certainly options. We've looked at a variety of options, and this board is not unanimous in terms of which options and what the possibilities are and all of that. And I know that that's consistent with what is taking place within our community. Bill mentioned it earlier in his report. So this is one of the three options that we looked at, and without going back over all the evaluations and so forth, hopefully the community will step behind this. We'll get this thing passed in May, and that our contingency plan will not have to be implemented next year. Those pieces that will come next year. So,
Any other discussion? Okay, we're ready for a vote.
Mr. Smith?
yes.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
No.
Mr. Keller?
No.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. Okay, motion passes. Next, we need to approve the treasurer's CFO action items.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Nothing
or
really to
information?
discuss. It's just your normal items.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, let's take a vote.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. And then we have the superintendent's action items. Need a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Any information?
I would just highlight, we do have a retirement on there, Rachel Meyer from the high school, who's retiring with 24 years of service from our district. So congratulations and good luck to Rachel.
Yeah. Any other discussion? We'll take a vote.
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Keck?
Yes. And let's see here. Are we down to comments already? I guess we are. Comments and questions from the board. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I really enjoyed visits to the two buildings I was able to get to. As I went through the principals' reports that we get, I focused on Creekview, and they've had, and I know we did something in I think every single building, something in terms of military family appreciation, and I think that's is noteworthy. They also had a fundraiser that raised $6,000 that will go toward support of student activities, and they've had a winter concert, and they're showcasing the hard work that the musical performers, the art, and so forth have done. And the principal, Mr. Canale, notes that Creekview continues to strive to be the hub of student-centered excellence and collaboration, and I think the various activities that they do help to support that position. So that's very good. The other thing I wanted to mention was the fact that we've had an excellent presentation from the SC tonight, and I'm happy that we're going to be able to move forward in the process of finding someone to become our superintendent. And I know that during public participation, the comment was made that as a board, we need to be able to explain and talk to and answer questions about the levy, and I know that members of this board, members of our administration are available to try and do that whenever the opportunity presents itself. So I appreciated the comment, and will try to make myself available to do whatever I can do to try to address any questions or concerns.
Mr. Keller?
Wanted to just make a very brief comment about the resolution for our tax levy in May. Although I voted no, I support our school system and schools. My vote will be yes, and I will commit to work harder than I did last time, because we need it to get those extra votes for our school system and school district. I just, again, feel we need to, my opinion was, from everything I was hearing, that we needed to try something different. But again, I support our schools, and I will work with our levy committee again to send the message that we need to. It's been awesome to transition from those fall sports to winter. I go to a lot of them. It's been fun. It's definitely feeling like winter outside. And then lastly, I'm really excited to be a part of the facilities committee and learning what we're learning from that and how our district might need to proceed for the future for growth and development that we're having.
Mrs. Savage.
I want to express our thanks to everyone that came and presented tonight. We had some excellent presentations, and anything to help improve school climate, I think is, and not put additional work on the backs of the teachers and staff members, I think is excellent. And thanks to the ESC for coming to present and sharing that information with us. I did enjoy our school visits. I didn't get to go to all the schools this time. I previously mentioned our stop at transportation, and it was a exhilarating 2-hour conversation, I must say. I have 3 pages of notes from that, so I'll share some of that with you, Jermaine. So thank you to Marysville High School, Creekview, and Raymond also for entertaining us at the visits. I was impressed to see the teachers and staff being very professional, even though clearly the levy of the results of the levy were definitely a gut punch and taken. It's hard to not take it personally, so thank you.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes, first I want to start off by saying, I think a few months ago, I mentioned there was like job posting for a girls basketball coach, and that was how we kind of learned about, a resignation, upcoming resignation. And I said, we need to do a better job honoring people on their way out. And I think we saw a change this last couple weeks, last month or so. And we saw some positive thank yous, and the community was able to kind of engage in that conversation, that thread. And I want to say thank you to Joey Day and Diane and the district for making that. It's not because of anything I said, but I think that providing that opportunity for those coaches to kind of be thanked on their way out as before the job was posted. So I just want to say thank you. I know, since Monday, in the last few weeks, even after Monday, not one person has reached out and said, Jermaine, you should change your mind. You should vote for a 5.5 mil property tax levy. Every person who's contacted me, every person who's contacted the board's email has said, well, I think every person has, at least 90% of the people I've talked to or seen emails from have said, you need to try something different. And I was prepared to, change my position to a combo to support the combination effort. I've reached out to, to our board president just to let him know, hey, if there is a change of mind, I'm willing to support that. But every decision I've made since I've been on this board has been in the best interest, in my view, of representing people's voice and doing what's best interest for our students in the long run, not just the immediate, but the long run, the long view. And I wanted to reaffirm my commitment to our district. I think at some point, people are saying, you got to listen to us. We voted down 2 property tax levies, and you're bringing something back that we've already said no to. And I can continue why that may have not been our best interest, but we'll roll up our sleeves and we'll get to work, and hopefully we'll win in May. Thank you.
And I made my point earlier, so I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Ms. Savage?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes?
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Katz?
Yes.